Saving America one entrepreneur at a time. It's the Biz Wrap Podcast with your host, Michael Manahan.
It's Biz Wrap Radio, the show that celebrates entrepreneurs and small business with your host, small businessman, educator, and author, Michael Manahan.
And welcome to another edition of Biz Wrap Radio. It's your host, Michael Manahan. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you're new to Biz Wrap Radio, we are the show all about small business and entrepreneurs. We are huge supporters of small business at Biz Wrap Radio. We think that entrepreneurs and small business people are the lifeblood of the American economy. You know, most people in the United States actually work for a small business, and you know, as we pulled out of the recession, most of the new jobs were created by small business. And you know, that's not a story you hear. You pick up the Wall Street Journal, and there's 5 major articles. One's about Hewlett-Packard, one's about Facebook, one's about General Motors. There's no stories about the millions and millions of entrepreneurs in this country, the people right down the street that live in your neighborhood. No, they're not billionaires, they're not Zuckerbergs, and they're not Gateses, but they're people who live in your neighborhood. They pay their taxes. They send their kids to the same school that you send your kids to, and they're out there providing a service to you and me and everybody else, and yet they're under attack. Yes, they're under attack. I don't know if that's going to change now that we've got a new president, but the reality is our government has been at war with small business in collusion with the banks and the big corporations for some, I don't know, about the last 50, 60 years, trying to squeeze them in every way they can out of the marketplace, but they're vital to the U.S. economy. And here at Biz Wrap Radio, we're doing what we can to help the small business people of America. And, you know, it was something that is really important to small business people that I find is kind of the whole concept of, okay, you're focused on your business. You're focused on trying to make money. You're focused on trying to keep the government off your back and keep the regulators off your back. But at some point in time, you have to start taking care of yourself as an individual, and that means taking care of not only yourself physically, but yourself mentally. And my guest today is an individual who excels at that. He can help you understand better what you need to do to take care of the physical and mental side of yourself in order to be a successful entrepreneur. And with that, I'm very happy to welcome today to the show Mr. Chris Salem. Chris, welcome to the show.
Mike, a pleasure to be here.
Now, you sent me some information, and I don't like to read out long blurb introductions, but you're a keynote speaker, you're a wellness advocate, a prosperity facilitator. You like to help people understand the root causes for sustainable success with individuals and businesses. But really, what does all that mean, and what do you do?
So in essence, what I do is I work with individuals and people in businesses to resolve the root cause to the emotional and physical challenges that hold them back from sustainable success in their business and their personal life. So what that is it's looking at the past events or trigger events that are often tied to a negative emotion or a group of negative emotions that play out in every aspect of their life. That can be in their business, that can be with their health, their relationships, and so forth, which in essence people experience as being stuck, where they can't get out of their own way. So I help people to unblock that to really find success at the next level in all areas of their personal life and their business.
So really what you're doing is helping people work on themselves, and if people work on themselves, the result should be more success in their perhaps both their personal life and in their business life.
Correct. It's one of those things, again, nothing changes unless, you change. And success starts and ends with you. So there's no quick fix to anything. It's a process that people have to make a commitment to in order to fulfill the objectives that they want to be at. So it's a constant working on yourself to be at a higher level of energy and making sure that you are addressing the root cause to those emotional, physical challenges that hold you back.
So how do you do that? I mean, that sounds great in from a theoretical perspective, but can you give us some nuts and bolts? How does that really work?
So what you do is the first step is to really acknowledge that there's a challenge or a problem, even if you know the root cause or you do not. The key next is to then take your moral inventory to identify what the potential problems or challenges could be that could be traced back to the root cause. You want to be able to tie that to the feelings that you experience. What are the negative emotions that come up when you think about that? Is it anger? Is it jealousy? Is it envy? Is it shame, guilt, or any combination thereof? And so the first process is to become aware, acknowledge it, and then from there, through a process, we would go ahead and go about releasing it. So there is a process to go about doing that.
So can you take me through an example of maybe a client you've helped, and what was the issue? And I mean, again, I really like to get down to some, to try and dig down so that people really understand what you're talking about.
Sure, and I'll try to make this real quick. So in terms of a client that I had a client 4 years ago, a gentleman that came to me that had reached the end of his rope in terms of trying to release weight. He was 50 pounds overweight. Now, this was a thing that, in essence, he came to me about a health issue, not something from the business perspective. But you'll see how this all plays out when we're through with this story. So with this gentleman, he told me that, he had a very humble background, mother and father, brother and sister, very normal childhood, no major trauma in the past. He had recently been divorced. He was working in purchasing, but was basically just doing what he had to do to get by. He really wasn't fulfilling exactly where he should be based upon his education. But his objective was to release 50 pounds. Now, for 4 to 5 weeks, we went through a process to identify what the root cause could be. And I can tell because he claimed that there was no issues, no problem. But I had him going through a series of meditation where he was focusing on deep breathing, 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes in the evening. And he was writing down, certain things that would come to him when his mind was clear, because that was his subconscious mind talking to him at the conscious level. And he would write down certain things and then associate it with how he was feeling at the time. So after 5 weeks, he was able, out of nowhere, he told me that his mom used to tell him when he was a kid that you need to finish your plate because kids in Africa were starving. Mm-hmm. Now, he just took it as like, that's what, any mom would maybe say to make sure that their kids finish their plate. However, without him knowing it, he took it very seriously, even though he didn't realize it. And as an adult, he was now he was finishing his plate 2 or 3 times to subconsciously satisfy his mother. Now, where I'm going with this is that he was married to a woman who was just like his mother. Ended up finding out his mother was slightly dominant. She made all the decisions in the household, including for the father. The father was very passive. Now, another stuff was revealed to me up front. We had to really dig and get this out. Because this gentleman was never able to do things and figure things out on his own as a child, he didn't develop the skills necessary to be more effective in his career. That's why he was doing the bare minimum. So we were able to then find out where this all traced back, and the root cause was his mother. So once we were able to identify that and to truly forgive and release, we were then able to adopt new habits and where we could tap into his strengths to develop them through specific goal setting to get him not only to release 50 pounds, but actually also to get him to further advance in his career. And this process worked as a result of resolving the root cause.
Wow, that's a great story. I think he and I must have had the same mom, because my mom said exactly the same thing. If you don't clean, there's starving kids in Africa. Don't you know there's starving kids in Africa? Oh, man. And, even to this day, and I don't have too much of a weight problem. It does go up and down a little bit, but I feel guilty if that waiter comes over to the table and takes my plate away, and there's even a few little kernels of rice or corn left on that plate, and I'm feeling guilty about it. So I can understand exactly what this person was going through. Look, Chris, this is great stuff. We're only just getting started. We're going to break for commercial here in just a few seconds. This is Mike Manahan, of course, Biz Rap Radio. We are talking to Chris Salem, accomplished international speaker, wellness advocate, and he's going to help you to understand more about what you can do to live a healthier and better life, both mentally and physically, and that will result in you doing a better job of running your business and making what you need to do, which is making money. So we're going to be right back with Biz Rap Radio right after these messages. And welcome back to Biz Rap Radio. It is your host, Michael Manahan. Thank you so much for sticking with us today. We are talking on the line today with Chris Salem. Chris is a keynote speaker. He's a wellness advocate. He can help people understand some of the root causes that will help them sustain success, not only in their individual lives, but also in their business life. And again, Chris, thank you so much for being on the show today.
It's a pleasure to be here, Mike.
Okay, now I understand you've written a book. Your book is titled Master Your Inner Critic. What is your book all about?
So, the book is called Master Your Inner Critic, Resolve the Root Cause, Create Prosperity. So what the book is about is, again, the people that are, somewhat stuck in their life, struggling, and we're basically are looking for a solution to solve the problem. So these are people that are ready to commit to change to solve a particular problem that they do have. So the book, what it does is it outlines my own personal experience, including some clients that I've coached. So it kind of, that way they can relate at an emotional level where they are in terms of being stuck. And it walks them through a 7-step process, how they can go about resolving the root cause so that they can then look to adopt new habits and new skills or enhanced skills they already have to live in and operate in the solution rather than the effect of the challenge. So it's all about living and operating in the solution and a 7-step process to do that.
Okay, well, that sounds very interesting. So, somebody's interested in your book. They've maybe heard a little bit about what you've been discussing on the show so far. Where can they go to find out more about you, purchase your book perhaps, or even get a hold of you if they're interested in doing so?
Yeah, the best place would be you could start at my website, www.ChristopherSalem, one word. So Christopher is Christopher, Salem, SALEM.com. And then also you can send me an email at chris@ChristopherSalem.com. And the book is available right now for either an ebook or soft copy version at Amazon or Barnes & Noble online.
Okay, cool. So check out Chris's book if you're interested in perhaps doing a little inner soul searching. And, I want to make a commentary about this because there is so much great information available at such low cost through books like Chris's book, my book. I know a lot of companies come to me because they're trying to raise capital. I wrote The Secrets to Raising Capital. You can buy it like less than $20 on Amazon. And there's so much great information. A client of mine was telling me about a book. It was called something like I don't know, Mom's Guide to Inventions or something, written by a woman who created a product, and she talked about how she patented the product and how she got the product developed by, she had to hire CAD designers and all of this sort of stuff. It's great information at very, very low cost, and it always amazes me when I meet entrepreneurs, and I meet them all the time, who are struggling with an issue. And it's like they're in a life raft in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, and they're not reaching out to all of these sources and resources that are available to them that they could use to enhance their own abilities to handle not only their personal situations but their business situations. I think one of the most important things that we need to understand in this world, and Chris, let me know what you think about this, is that almost every experience we go through, either personally or in business, we're not unique. Other people have gone through these same experiences. Other people have had the same issues and the same problem. Why not look to a guide, somebody who's already been through this, who has maybe solved the same problems you have, and use that as an example for yourself instead of being in some kind of lost soul state where I don't know what to do. Well, somebody's already figured it out. Believe me, there's 7 billion people on this planet. You're not that unique. Somebody else has had your same issues, your same problems. Look for some guidance from people who've been through it before or from experts who know about the field that you're operating in. Chris, what are your thoughts?
No, I totally agree. I think, what a lot of times people are looking for a magic pill or a solution to something, and they tend to think that it's always in, something what they've been conditioned to be told to believe is true. I'm a firm believer that, there's some great information from experts, but the best is when you are able to get that through their experience. And another thing I've learned, that some of the best solutions to what I went through and what, propelled me to write this book was I had picked up certain things from advocates, people that actually went through these experiences and were able to solve their own problems, and thus how I was able to do the same thing. So when I present this information from a personal experience and from other perspectives from people I've coached, you're getting it from an advocate's point of view. So just like you said, it could be very, very strong because people relate to other people that are just everyday people. And the fact that, somebody like myself, I went through this process personally. I'm not just talking about it. I lived it. I experienced it. This is something that somebody can say, well, hey, my situation may be different, but I was experiencing the same negative emotions. I was stuck in my business. I was stuck in my career. I was overweight, whatever the case may be. But from what I can see what this person did, I can do the same thing and solve my own problem. So I 100% agree. People relate on an emotional level to other people's experiences. They want to buy into the solution. They don't want to be sold or told what to do. They want to relate to that experience and how that plays into what they're trying to do.
That is really powerful, and just such a great lesson to people out there. So, anyway, one of the things you talk about is the 8 pillars of wellness. What are the 8 pillars of wellness?
So the 8 pillars of wellness, when people think of wellness, a lot of times they're just focused on the physical aspect of wellness, being with nutrition and exercise. But the 8 pillars of wellness are going to look at social wellness. There's going to be emotional wellness. There's going to be spiritual wellness, physical wellness, intellectual wellness, occupational wellness, and environmental wellness. I know that's a mouthful, but
and is all this covered in your book, by the way?
The 8 pillars of wellness are mentioned, but I don't go into length about them. But I do a separate a keynote on that topic on wellness and the impact on business.
Okay, great.
So in essence, what the 8 pillars are is when, a lot of times if somebody is emotionally, off balance with their wellness, that is also going to play into a lot of other things with the other 8 pillars of wellness. It can affect their physical wellness. It can affect their social wellness. It can have impact on their financial wellness. So there's a lot of, and that was one I forgot to mention. I'm sorry. Financial wellness was the other one. So when they are out of sync with one another, where they're not, balanced correctly, that's when people are not operating at their peak efficiency. They're operating at a lower level of energy, and then they find themselves where they're not able to be where they want to be, either with their health, within their business, their career, or any area that they're experiencing, that they're struggling. So the key is to really, to be aware of the 8 pillars, and to do to be at your best to find ways to solutions that will help to keep them in balance. You're never going to be perfect, but to keep them in balance. That's going to raise your your level of energy to a higher level to attract better situations to what you're striving to accomplish.
So can you just take one of those pillars and kind of just give us maybe an example on that one pillar, something that you might recommend or something that maybe your clients have had success with?
Well, absolutely. As you know, with the book, Master Your Inner Critic, it really focuses on the emotional wellness side because, again, a lot of times people are trying to manage the symptoms or the effects of the challenges that they face. They sometimes will experience some spikes in terms of success, but end up coming right back to where they are because, again, they fail to address the root cause to the problem or challenge. So when it looks at when you look at emotional wellness, okay, that's again living in harmony with yourself, others, and people that you are in your community or that you work with. So the key is that you need to be aware, more consciously aware of how you feel, and be able to identify those feelings to the situation. Now, if you're feeling anger, guilt, shame, jealousy, envy, or any combination thereof, you need to be aware and write these down because those are the very things that could be having an impact not only on things that haven't worked for you in the past, but are currently going to manifest itself in the future to other things where it basically looks like it's like a tape playing over and over again. It's a different situation, but the same results. So the key is to be consciously aware of what that is, and one of the most effective ways to solve the problem is to really get into a practice of deep breathing in the morning, 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes in the evening, to be in the moment, be in the present, and to get your mind clear. Because when your mind is clear and calm, the answers will come. They come from the subconscious mind into the conscious mind, where you're able to then to find out what the solutions are to solve your problem. And once you're able to, eliminate those negative emotions that are tied to those trigger events, you're able to get your emotional wellness in balance, and that will have tremendous impact on the other areas that are going to propel you forward.
Okay, well, Chris, now I need you to take some deep breaths so that we can break for commercials. It's Mike Manahan, Biz Rap Radio, and we're going to be back right after these messages with Chris Salem and more on how you can be a more well person. And welcome back to Biz Rap Radio. It's your host, Michael Manahan. Thank you for sticking with us. By the way, if you're new to Biz Rap Radio, we are the show all about small business and entrepreneurs. We're here to help you, the entrepreneurs and small business people of America, do a better job of running your business and at the same time living a happy and healthy life. I am talking today with Chris Salem. Chris is a keynote speaker. He's an author, a wellness advocate. And he's talking to us about how we, improve success in our lives, both as individuals and with our businesses. And Chris, we were talking just before we went to the break about the 8 pillars of wellness. You kind of rattled over those. So let's you talked a little bit, you've talked in the email that you sent me a little bit about goal planning, and I know for a lot of people this whole idea of coming up with goals is challenging. How specific should they be? How do I really plan for the future? Where should I be planning? But you mentioned it. So what advice do you have for myself and for the listening audience on goals and goal planning?
Well, I think it's very important that you have to have a long-term goal that has to be, specific, and it has to be attainable. And not only do you have the long-term goal, which I see a lot of people do, but they almost set themselves up for failure and become overwhelmed because they're focusing on the long-term goal. The most important part is to break them down into smaller, attainable goals on a daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly basis. And whatever that goal, if you're trying to, let's say if it's going to be a year that you set as the long-term goal to achieve it, you're going to have to break it down by day, by week, by month, and so forth, because that's going to become your roadmap. And when you have something that you can follow and it's very specific to exactly the times you're going to make calls, to the times that you're going to perform certain tasks, you're going to get into a routine that is going to then work with that energy, work with the universe to get you to where you want to go. The problem is when people don't work a specific detailed plan, they tend to deviate, they tend to be more prone to procrastination, and they allow fear to set in to throw them off.
Yeah, I actually work with a lot of entrepreneurs, and I also teach entrepreneurial finance at Cal State University. And a lot of my students are young people who are trying to start new businesses, and I come across a lot of entrepreneurs who have these lofty goals, wonderful goals, but they're way off out in the future, and I say to them, okay, but how are you going to get there? That's your goal. My goal is to be a billionaire. My goal is to, have a company doing $500 million a year. My goal is to capture the majority of the market share. But how are you going to get there? How do you get from here, where you are today, to where you want to be? And a lot of times they give me that kind of, glazed over look. They really haven't even thought about that. Yet I think it goes back to the old saying, the devil is in the details. You've got to come up with detailed plans, and that's what's going to keep you on track. And I remember reading, and I can't remember who it was, but there's some motivational speaker, one of the famous motivational speakers of years past, who had a very simple system. I believe his system was that every morning he got up, he put 20 paper clips in one of his pockets. And every time he made a sales call, he took a paper clip from one pocket and put it into the other pocket. And his day was not complete till he had moved all 20 paper clips from one pocket to the other pocket. Now, pretty primitive, but it kept him on track for achieving his goals. So you don't necessarily need extremely complex and complicated goal planning, but what you do need is you need a roadmap, and it needs to be incremental so that you can see what you've achieved, and you can also make sure that you're staying on track. Would that, Chris? Would you kind of agree with that philosophy?
Oh, 100%, Mike. Absolutely. Again, in order for anything to manifest itself in reality, it starts with a thought, okay? And a thought is very powerful when it's taken out of the mind and written down in written form. When I say not typed, but actually writing it down to be most effective. And that written word becomes very powerful in order to get that energy to flow in your direction. So the more specific and detailed you are, and you can do this on a daily and a weekly basis, it becomes more attainable. So you don't feel as overwhelmed, and you don't feel that anxiety and stress, because that is what throws people off, because they have a great vision and a great goal, but they don't know the day-to-day objectives, how to get there. And they're kind of shooting from the hip. And when you operate that way, you're never going to really truly get to where you want to go. And, some do, that's, it's by sheer of luck. But when you have a specific plan, you've really set yourself up for success, that if you follow it verbatim, you're gonna get there.
And I've heard people say, well, I met some guy, he ended up being really successful. He said he never did any planning. It just all kind of happened by luck. And I think you have to go back to the philosophy that, look, at a certain number of people are going to succeed by absolute pure luck. It's like the story about the guy who's sharing a martini in a bar in Manhattan, and he pulled out a napkin. He wrote his business plan on the back of a napkin, and got $100 million in funding and built a $1 billion corporation. But those are the exceptions to the rule. Most of us aren't exceptions. Most of us are just regular, everyday people. And I have interviewed people all walks of life who've been successful athletes, successful business people, successful speakers, and almost everybody I talk to says they engage in some sort of or some form of formalized planning exercise, whether it's sitting under a tree on a Sunday afternoon at the park with a pad of paper, or sitting at the computer, or using some of the software now that you can use that can help you create better plans for moving yourself forward. But at some point in time, these are some of the things that you have to do. Now, Chris, one of the things that I know a lot of people have difficulty with is that barrage of negativity that comes at us all. I mean, even just like today, opening the mail, I had a letter from the IRS, and I'm like, oh my God, a letter from the IRS. And then there was another letter from the Florida Department of Labor or something. And I said, oh, the government's after me again. I mean, it just seems we get so much negativity thrown at us as business people and individuals. What's the best way of facing that negativity? Do you have any advice for listeners on that?
Yeah, I mean, I would say it again, it's always, you always want to be serving your true purpose. And whatever your long-term goal is, that is the main objective. There's always going to be stuff that's going to be thrown at you. There's going to be negative stuff, life happens, and sometimes we have to address those things. However, we want to make sure that that the focus is always going to be on what you're trying to accomplish and what value that you're going to bring from that to other people and empower them. So the key is not to get wrapped in the small stuff, the negative stuff. I know it's easier said than done, but when you're able to kind of, on a daily basis, kind of clear your mind to be in the present moment, when you get into that practice of deep breathing and focusing on that 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes in the evening, and get into a routine, you're going to be a lot of times you're going to get into the habit of being in the moment, and you're going to be calm. So when these things get thrown at you, you're not going to react like you would have in the past, where it could get you all frazzled and get you, you get angry, you feel stressed, you feel anxiety. That eventually in time will kind of dissipate when you get into the practice of being in the moment and being still focused on what the most important task is, and that's your long-term goal.
Okay, with that, we're going to break for commercials. Mike Manahan, Biz Rap Radio, will be back right after these messages. And welcome back to Biz Rap Radio. Thanks for sticking with us today. We are talking with Chris Salem today. Very interesting conversation. Chris is a motivational speaker. He's a keynote speaker. He's a wellness advocate. He is an individual who is a prosperity facilitator, helps us resolve the root causes that can allow for sustainable success, and both in our individual lives and in our business lives. And Chris is also an author. Master Your Inner Critic. Chris, again, thanks so much for being on the show today.
Absolutely, a pleasure to be here, Mike.
Okay, once more, just for the audience, how can people get a hold of you? How can they find out more about you?
Well, the best place to find out about me is at my website, which is www.christophersalem.com, one word. So Christopher with a C-H-R-I-S, and then the last name, Salem, like Salem, Massachusetts, or Salem, Oregon, SALEM.com. I can be also reached at my email address, chris@christophersalem.com, and that would be the best place to reach out with any questions or any additional information that you require.
Okay, fantastic. That's great. And definitely get a hold of Chris. Get his book. I mean, how much does your book sell for, by the way?
There's two versions. There's an ebook or Kindle version for $4.99, available at Amazon, and then also at Barnes & Noble online. And there's also a soft copy available for $15.95 on both sources as well.
Okay, so it's your choice. The cost of a beer or the cost of a martini, but a relatively small cost for a lot of really, really valuable information. So I want to talk about one more thing with the time we got left, Chris. You have coined a term, and you've even trademarked it. It's called prospreneur. Am I pronouncing it properly?
Absolutely, and it's funny, Mike, you're about the only person that can pronounce it correctly, because I've been on a lot of shows, and a lot of people have a hard time pronouncing it.
Well, what is a prospreneur?
So what a prospreneur is, it's a way of life and a way how you do business. So in essence, what it is it means when your health and wealth are in alignment, you will then experience and operate in true prosperity. And let me clarify wealth. Wealth is not just the money aspect of it. Obviously, that's an important thing and what a lot of people tend to think about. But wealth also means a lot of other things. It means freedom, being who you are, living to your true purpose, and empowering and adding value to others. So when you have that wealth and health, operating at an optimal level in synchronization, you're then operating in true prosperity in your life and your business. So the Prosperpreneur name is coined to exemplify that for people that are looking to have that in balance to really feel and experience what prosperity is all about.
So prosperity is not just about having a big fat bank account. There's some mental attitude that goes along with prosperity. That's what you're saying?
Absolutely, yeah. It's not all about just the money because, again, you could have a lot of money, but you could be spiritually bankrupt, emotionally bankrupt. You can be in poor health, overweight, and that's not prosperity. Again, it's the ability to have the freedom to do what you want to do, to experience life on your terms, to do the work you love that serves your purpose on your terms that adds value to others, and of course, having optimal health. Again, it doesn't be perfect, but having where you're better off than where you were. And so that way, you feel more energized, you feel more relaxed, and you're able to do the things to have more sustainable energy throughout your life.
Let me ask you a question. Is there anything we can do when we observe somebody who is close to us, who we think is taking the wrong path on some of these things? And I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. A very dear friend of mine who's probably in his 70s, up until very recently, he's a physician, driving literally 70, 80 miles each way to the office where he practices and driving home, working himself absolutely to the bone, his health failing. Every time I see him, he looks worse. And his sole excuse for this is, well, this is what I need to do because I didn't make more money earlier in my life. Meanwhile, the guy's living in a $2.5 million home up in the hills, up in north of Los Angeles. He's driving a $100,000 car. He just remodeled his kitchen for $100,000, but a kitchen he never uses because he's always working. And I'm thinking, what is wrong with my friend? Is there anything you can do about people like that?
Well, like I said, people don't want to be told what and how to do things. They're looking for an answer. So the key is really to relate to them. Begin to kind of listen to them, not to the point where they're going to dump all their stuff on you and you're going to absorb all of their bad energy, but just to listen. And if they're looking for it to change or looking for a solution, that you can ask them, are you open for a recommendation on something that you could find balance and more peace in your life? And if they say yes, they're now giving you permission to offer a solution. So the thing is, you can offer the solution, but leave it at that. Let them come back and ask you for more. But the most powerful way to convey this message is to be an example. Be the example. Let them observe what you're doing and empower them to come and talk to you or inquire about, why it seems like your life's doing very well. How can I go about doing that? But again, avoid interjecting that, hey, let me see, I can help you. Let me tell you how you can do it and when you can do it. That doesn't work. So being in the example and just being there listening to ask them if they're open for a recommendation.
Gotcha. So just showing some empathy and showing that you're willing to help. Okay, we got literally about 2 minutes left here at the most. Chris, any parting thoughts for the listeners today?
Well, I would just say to anybody listening, anybody out there that feels stuck in either their business or, with their personal life, again, that nothing is going to change until you're able to resolve the root cause to the challenges that hold you back. And again, it starts emotionally and it can also relate to the physical side. So the key is to really, become aware of what the root cause can be by, getting in tune with your subconscious mind to draw that out and to seek out help and resources that can help you to kind of get over these barriers so that can get you to where you want to be in your business and your life.
Okay, and one of those resources is, of course, you. Something we didn't talk about, but I know you do the keynote speaking. You've got the book. Do you do one-on-one with individuals as well?
Yes, I do. I do personalized one-on-one coaching, which I do with a wide variety of different people. And next year we'll be launching some programs which I'll be doing through a webinar format and group coaching, either in a workshop format or online, to help people that are interested in the group function. It'll be less expensive, but I feel that the one-on-one coaching is the best, and I feel that what I charge is a great value into what you're going to get and where you're going to be, because it's an investment in yourself, and you're going to be able to propel yourself to where you want to be by getting over the root cause.
Gotcha. Okay, once again, Chris, give out your contact information for the audience.
The contact information, again, is Christopher Salem at www.christophersalem, one word, .com, or chris@christophersalem.com.
Okay, there it is. It's Christopher Salem, an individual you really need to listen to. You want to go check out his website, check out his book. If you have an organization that's looking for a keynote speaker, give him a call. Really, really great stuff. And just, again, that kind of reminder that we really have to be working on ourselves and not just other things and other people. We got to work on ourselves. If we can improve ourselves, we will improve not only our personal life but also our business life. Really, really important. Chris, I really want to thank you again for being on the show today.
Mike, it was a pleasure to be here and an opportunity to create the awareness to let your listeners know that there is a solution.
Okay, so it is Mike Manahan, Biz Rap Radio. You know, here at Biz Rap Radio, we are fixing the United States of America through a fundamental concept that individuals pursuing their own economic interests in free markets will create more prosperity for more people than can ever be achieved through government regulations and a planned economy. I am your host, Mike Manahan. Thanks so much for joining me. We'll be back again next week with another edition of Biz Rap Radio.